This is Land of Havilah, Ezekiel 26. This chapter and the next two are a prophecy against Tyre, Tyre. Tyre was a rich and powerful city-state about 105 miles north of Jerusalem. Because it was on the Mediterranean coast and had access to timber in the forests of Lebanon, it was a center of shipbuilding and ocean-going commerce. About 130 years before Ezekiel, Isaiah also prophesied the destruction of Tyre in chapters 23 and 24. That prophecy morphed from Tyre being laid waste to the whole earth being laid waste in the end times. Ezekiel's 2.5 chapters on Tyre go the same direction. Toward the end of Ezekiel's prophecy of Tyre, it's unmistakably an allegory of the end times, which means that right from the beginning we can start looking for phrases that have end-time application. Verse 1. In the 11th year, in the first of the month, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Son of man, because Tyre has said against Jerusalem, Aha, she is broken, she who was the gateway of the people has been returned to me. I will be replenished now that she's laid waste. Therefore, thus says the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against you, Tyre, and will cause many nations to come up against you, as the sea causes its waves to come up. Comment in verse 1, it's the 11th year, first of the month, but Ezekiel doesn't say which month. The 11th year means the 11th year of Jehoiachin's captivity, which coincides with the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign in Judah, which is the year Jerusalem fell, 2 Kings 25:2. So Ezekiel received this prophecy the year Jerusalem fell. With the fall of Jerusalem being the thing on every Judean's mind, Yahweh will take this occasion to prophesy the fall of Tyre and turn it into an allegory of the end times. The fall of Jerusalem at the hand of Nebuchadnezzar was 586. The siege of Tyre began the same year and lasted an epic 13 years, after which Nebuchadnezzar laid waste to it. But that wasn't the only time. In the course of history, Tyre fell multiple times, so there were waves of attack and defeats, which concurs with verse 3 we just read, quote, Behold, I am against you, Tyre, and will cause many nations to come up against you, as the sea causes its waves to come up, end quote. In verse 2, Tyre said of Jerusalem, Aha, she is broken. She who was the gateway of the peoples has been returned to me. I will be replenished now that she is laid waste, end quote. It's understandable that the people of Tyre would say, Aha, Jerusalem is broken, because Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem that year. And it's not surprising that the people of Tyre would gloat about it. But it doesn't make sense that the ancient Tyrians would say that Jerusalem was the gateway of the peoples and that the gateway has been returned to us. It only makes sense in an allegorical way that Jerusalem would be where the hearts of God's people are, and Tyre would be where the heart of every money-loving and worldly person would be. The laying waste of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar bears similarities with the attack on Jerusalem by the Antichrist in the end times. The Antichrist will commit an abomination of desolation against the temple and against the Jews, Matthew 24:15 and 2 Thessalonians 2:4, and the world will gloat about it, Revelation 11:10. To the satisfaction of the unbelieving world, it'll look like God's purposes have been defeated and the Antichrist has the upper hand. It'll be a great victory in the anti-God propaganda war of the end times. We wouldn't be able to make this connection unless we had already peeked 2.5 chapters ahead in Ezekiel to the end of this prophecy to see that it truly is an allegory of the end times. But what will become of ancient Tyre who gloats over the destruction of Jerusalem? Coming up, Tyre will be destroyed more than once, verse 4. They will destroy the walls of Tyre and break down her towers. I will also scrape her dust from her and make her a bare rock. She'll be a place for the spreading of nets in the middle of the sea, for I have spoken it, says the Lord Yahweh. She will become a plunder for the nations. Her daughters who are in the field will be slain with the sword. They will know that I am Yahweh. Comment in verse 4, the pronoun is they. They will destroy the walls of the city, scrape the dust from Tyre, and Yahweh will make her a bare rock. This refers to the forces of Alexander the Great. About 250 years after this prophecy, in 332 B.C., Alexander the Great destroyed Tyre and threw the rubble into the sea. This transformed the proud fortified city into what Yahweh calls a bare rock in verse 4. In verse 5, Tyre would be thereafter a humble fishing village for the spreading of nets. But even before that, in the immediate 13 years following this prophecy, verse 7, "For thus says the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I will bring on Tyre Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, king of kings, from the north, with horses, with chariots, with horsemen, and an army with many people. He will kill your daughters in the field with the sword. He'll make forts against you, cast up a mound against you, and raise up the buckler against you. He'll set his battering engines against your walls, and with his axes he'll break down your towers. By reason of the abundance of his horses, their dust will cover you. Your walls will shake at the noise of the horsemen, of the wagons, and of the chariots, when he enters into your gates, as men enter into a city which is broken open. He will tread down all your streets with the hoofs of his horses. He'll kill your people with the sword. The pillars of your strength will go down to the ground." Comment: Nebuchadnezzar fulfilled everything in verses 7 to 11 we just read. He did to Tyre what he already did to Jerusalem. After a 13-year siege of Tyre, he entered the gates, tread down the streets with the hoofs of his horses, killed with the sword, and toppled the pillars to the ground, meaning he destroyed the buildings. This is all historically accurate. In verse 7, Nebuchadnezzar is King of Kings. In Revelation, Jesus will come with the names King of Kings and Lord of Lords written on his garment and thigh. In military style, Jesus will destroy kings and armies of men, small and great, who have gathered to make war against him, and he'll destroy the Antichrist, Revelation 19:16-21. And in this chapter, Nebuchadnezzar, King of Kings, will destroy Tyre, which is a picture of what Jesus, King of Kings, will do to the earth when he returns. Hosea 12:2 says the prophets spoke in allegories, also translated they spoke in similitudes. A similitude means something similar. This passage from Ezekiel is one of those many occasions in the Bible that God spoke in an allegory or similitude. Nebuchadnezzar's destruction of Tyre and Alexander's destruction of it later on are similitudes or allegories of Jesus destroying his enemies when he returns in power and glory at the end of the tribulation. The tribulation here is represented by the long 13-year siege, followed by a quick destructive end when Nebuchadnezzar finally broke through. This matches up with the Great Tribulation, followed by the quick destructive end Jesus will make of his enemies. If the text so far doesn't convince the listener that this destruction of Tyre is intended to be a similitude of end-time events, just stick with us for a couple of more chapters. Tyre is a picture of everything worldly because of its pride, power, and riches. Jesus will topple the entire proud, powerful, rich world system on the day he returns. Now referring mostly to what Alexander will do to Tyre in 332, and still comparing it to what Jesus will do to the world system, verse 12. "They will make a plunder of your riches and make a prey of your merchandise. They'll break down your walls and destroy your pleasant houses. They'll lay your stones, your timber, and your dust in the middle of the waters. I'll cause the noise of your songs to cease. The sound of your harps won't be heard any more. I'll make you a bare rock. You'll be a place for the spreading of nets. You'll be built no more, for I, Yahweh, have spoken it, says the Lord Yahweh." Comment: the past fulfillment of verses 12 to 14 is that Alexander destroyed Tyre and threw its rubble into the sea, transforming the city into a bare rock, so to speak. The future fulfillment is that Jesus will make a clean sweep of the Antichrist and all his forces and of the world's economic system when he returns in power and glory. The two events, the one of the past and the one of the future, bear resemblance, which is why Hosea called these types of events allegories or similitudes. It's history repeating itself, but not exactly. Coming up, this is how the world will react to Tyre's downfall, verse 15. "Thus says the Lord Yahweh to Tyre, Won't the islands shake at the sound of your fall, when the wounded groan, when the slaughter is made within you? Then all the princes of the sea will come down from their thrones and lay aside their robes and strip off their embroidered garments. They will clothe themselves with trembling. They'll sit on the ground and will tremble every moment and be astonished at you." Comment: in verses 15 and 16, the islands is also translated the coastlands. The islands or coastlands are Tyre's far-flung trading partners. The princes of the sea are the kings and leaders of those coastal nations. Tyre reaches all those coastal lands by ship. They'll groan and be distressed when Tyre falls. It'll be a great jolt to every economy. In verse 16, when Tyre is destroyed, the leaders of the nations will come down from their thrones, lay aside their royal robes, clothe themselves with trembling, and be astonished. This is a similitude of what will happen when Jesus returns. All the world leaders will be astonished when they see Jesus coming in destruction. They were convinced the Antichrist was invincible. They didn't call him Antichrist. He was a god, they believed. They'll be taken aback by the true nature of things when Jesus comes killing and destroying. Revelation 19:11-21. At the sudden jolt of Jesus' return, those who put their stock in the Antichrist will tremble, be astonished, abandon their thrones, and put aside their royal robes. Their thrones and royal robes will be evidence they allied themselves with the Antichrist. Now speaking of Tyre, verse 17, they will take up a lamentation over you and tell you how you are destroyed, who were inhabited by seafaring men, the renowned city who was strong in the sea, she and her inhabitants, who caused their terror to be on all who lived there. Now the islands will tremble in the day of your fall. Yes, the islands that are in the sea will be dismayed at your departure. For thus says the Lord Yahweh, when I make you a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I bring up the deep on you and the great waters cover you, then I will bring you down with those who descend into the pit, to the people of old time, and will make you dwell in the lower parts of the earth, in the places that are desolate of old, with those who go down to the pit, that you be not inhabited, and I'll set glory in the land of the living. I'll make you a terror, and you will no more have any being. Though you are sought for, yet you will never be found again, says the Lord Yahweh. Comment in verses 17 and 18, the princes of the coastlands will take up a lamentation over Tyre. In similitude, the world leaders will actually mourn the destruction of the Antichrist system. They were on board with the Antichrist in opposition to Jesus, and now the tide of history has turned amazingly against them. To them, the new reality of Jesus on the throne is unwelcome and terrorizing. In verses 19 and 20, Yahweh says something to the effect, when I make Tyre desolate and cover her with the deep and with great waters, then I'll bring her down to those who descend into the pit. You'll dwell in the lower parts of the earth, in places that have been desolate from of old, and in the land of the living I'll set glory. As this applied to ancient Tyre, she never rose again to anything like her former glory. As it applies in similitude to the end times, when Jesus returns, he'll throw the Antichrist and the false prophet into the lake of fire, and he'll kill those who are gathered together to make war against him. Revelation 19:11-21. There'll be no place for them in the land of the living, which at that time will be made glorious. In verse 20, they'll descend to the pit, to the lower parts of the earth. According to geologists, the depths of the earth happen to be very hot. In the last verse of the chapter, Yahweh will make Tyre a terror. In ancient fulfillment, when the nations saw what Alexander did to Tyre, it terrorized them, and they were much more likely to surrender to him without a fight. In the end-time similitude, what Jesus will do when he comes will terrorize any potential enemies who remain. They'll surrender to him, and thus Jesus will begin his reign as King of Kings on the earth, with all the nations serving him for 1,000 years, Isaiah 60, verse 12, and Revelation chapter 20. Also in the last verse, Tyre will never more be found or never more exist. In similitude, the Antichrist and his system will never rise again. Ezekiel 27 is next.